Good morning. It's Trent from Speak2Read, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that I'm doing when I do guided reading or reading aloud with children. And quite often in schools, what we see is that during guided reading, we use a partial word cue analysis. So as the child is reading along, we'll say, does that look right, or does that make sense? And this helps metacognitively to let the child know that they've made an error, but it really just encourages guessing. They're going to look and they're going to take another stab at it, and it doesn't really provide a lot of instruction. So for a lot of children who are weak readers, this is really quite ineffective for teaching reading. There's another way that we can look at it. And as a caveat to that, some kids really hate to get interrupted when they're reading. So I like to check in and make sure that kids are okay with being interrupted if they make an error. Engagement is paramount for reading. We don't want to get that self-esteem, self-confidence kind of spiral thing happening. So if a child really hates getting interrupted, quite often I'll record their errors on a piece of paper or a sticky note, and then at the end we can review some words. And if they made 20 errors while they're reading, I do not get to the end of the book and then work through 20 errors. I might do 2 or 3 words, right? We're just tacking some extra work on. I do like doing it at the point of performance, so I like doing the error correction right there in the moment. You just have to make sure that kids are okay with it or find a way to make it fun, and really make light of the errors and things like that. I really like to break out and do some work outside of the book so we can isolate the word and work on single word reading and spelling so that we're not looking at the word in context, but rather we're taking that word out. So I'll often do it on the whiteboard at the desk when we're working. So we'll have the book as well as a whiteboard out, or a piece of paper works too. And so, for example, today I was working with a child, and we came across the word blast. We were working on some short vowel A words, and we found the word blast. And when she read it, she read bast. And I said, okay, great, good effort. Let's think about what you just said. You said the word bast. Let's sound that out and see what we get. So we moved the book aside, and we went to our whiteboard. And I said, sound out for me what you hear when you say bast. So she was able to segment and sound out b-a-s-t, like that. And I often will use placeholders to support the phonological or the sound memory. So I like to use magnets on the whiteboard, or even just drawing dots on the paper. So I drew 4 dots horizontally, b-a-s-t, like that. So I have all 4 sounds marked, and the memory is kind of recorded there visually. And I said, okay, great, we've got our sounds. Now I want you to think about what letters do you picture, or what letters do you think about when you hear b? What letter comes to mind? And so she was able to generate B, and I said, well, let's write that down under our dot. So she wrote down the letter B, and I said, what do you hear? What do you picture? What letter do you think of when you hear A? What do you see when you hear S? What do you picture when you hear T? Like that. So she was able to spell B-A-S-T, and I said, awesome, great, we've got your word recorded on the whiteboard here, on the paper. Let's look at our word. So then I looked back in the book and I copied the word blast underneath. And I said, let's compare them. Let's use our eyes and see what we're seeing, what matches up, what doesn't. And she was able to see right away that what didn't match up was the letter L. She didn't have one in her word. And I said, great. Now when you read bast, and now that you see there's an extra letter here, can you see that you didn't put a sound in for the letter L? What sound does letter L make? And she was able to generate O. And I said, good. So here are your sounds, B, O, S. Can you blend that and read that for me? And she read blast. I said, great, now you've got your word. So the sound processing now is complete and intact. We've segmented and blended and perceived every sound in the word blast. We have also really done a lot of work on the visual processing and the orthography of the word blast. What we haven't done is talk about the meaning at all. So I say, now tell me what the word blast means, like a definition, or use it in a sentence. This is really important for word recognition and word retrieval, as we have to activate that semantic association network and the language meaning part of the brain. So she was able to generate a sentence, and I said, let's go back to our book. I get her to go back and start the sentence again and read the sentence so she discovers the word blast in context, and just to see if she can roll smoothly through that word, and she did. So this is just an example of full word cueing analysis. It takes a little bit more time, but this is where processing the way a word looks, what the word means, and what the word sounds like, as well as getting to the root of the error. So in this case, it's really important to note that when she read bast for blast, that's a phonological awareness error. When her eyes don't match her ears, or when her eyes don't match what her mouth is saying, it's the sound processing that should help her catch that error. The sound processing error should go, well, wait a minute, BL could never just say B, that doesn't match up. And when that error just gets missed and gets read through, There is some contribution from the frontal lobes in the executive functioning system and attention as part of that metacognition, self-monitoring, and error correction. But really that error is generated and derived from the sound processing or the phonological awareness system. So going in that moment and doing some phonological awareness instruction around that word is how you repair that and ongoingly strengthen reading. Just saying, does that look right? Does that sound right? Guess again is not going to repair that and build the underlying skills and foundations. So just a little blurb about the kind of work that we're doing here at Speak2Read and the kind of stuff that you can easily build in at home or at school when you're doing oral reading. And just wanted to contribute that. If you find that valuable, I encourage you to share this video. I just want to educate educators and parents, and my message will spread as you spread it. And you never know who it will reach and who it might make a difference for. So I do encourage you to just spread it along, and hopefully it makes a difference for some people in their reading. Thanks very much. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.